This is a time of revelation and of prophecy and of awakening. Death rattles and birth pangs at the same time, because that's what happens. When there is a death, there is a birth. Life is circular. Life is. Death is not the opposite of life. Life has no opposite. When you exit through the portal of death, you enter into the portal of birth. It's opposite ends of the same portal. And we are in a sort of liminal stage, I believe. Or perhaps we are in the process of dying to ourselves, to this way of doing things. And there has been foreshadowing. People have dreams. People have visions. This is part of what it is to be a spirit, a soul, and a body. We are limitless beings who have been squeezed into a limited vehicle, which cuts us off from our totality. But when we go inward, we actually expand and we tap into that infinite potential to God. And this is where the visions and the dreams come from. When we wake up, we will just be tapped into that all the time. We will be in constant communion with God, with life. Just like the animals and the elements. They just flow. They just are. They are being. They are living. And we are like that caterpillar, that centipede, rather, in the Aesop's fable, that's having the conversation with the frog, and the frog is so dumbfounded as to how this centipede manages to operate all of these legs simultaneously. And the minute that the centipede puts his attention on it and tries to figure it out, his legs become tied up in a knot and he falls down and he can no longer walk. That's the story of humanity in a nutshell. We try to understand intellectually that which is beyond understanding. And now we're sick, and we're sad, and we're amnesic. And I'm sitting in a car that I live in, that I sleep in. I live in the world. People, when they hear that I am a van lifer, some people just are so confounded about, like, how do you work? How do you shower? How do you, people just can't understand, because people have been so culturally conditioned and grown so attached to comforts that a lot of people can't even fathom how one can operate without the comforts, right? But it's just a matter of being smart. And I'm not claiming to be super smart. I'm just saying aware, present, on your toes, alive, engaging. If you live in a city, there are public facilities, right? Go get a gym membership, take a shower there. Well, you're already there, work out. That's healthy, right? There's lots of opportunities to be out in the fresh air. You're more likely to do that because who wants to sit in the car all day? No, I hang out at the park. I take walks. I talk with the squirrels. I hang out with the birds. You know, when I rent a place, I get funky. I get sad because I feel like I'm in a cage, and actually it's because I am. We're not meant to live that way. Prisoners of the city, of the system. Most people don't even have time to spend in their house because they're too busy working a job to pay for the bills and the rent. And then the little bit of free time they do have, they feel obligated to spend at home on the couch watching Netflix because, damn, they're paying all this money and wasting all their life to pay for this place, so they better use it some, you know? It's like that. A lot of people are in that situation. And you don't have to be. Okay? Don't judge yourself. Don't let other people judge you. If they do, that's their problem. They're conditioned. Be free. God wants us to be free. God also wants us to be responsible. I am responsible. I take care of myself. I work. I do good things in the world. And none of that has anything to do with how much money's in my bank account. Or how many material things I own. Right? So, this is my destiny to live this way. As a very young child, I did not understand the ways of this world, the ways of our culture. I was so confounded by it, and I saw the people all around me, including my parents, that they were miserable, many of them. They had all this money. My parents had good money, and they were miserable. And so I knew it wasn't money that makes people happy. So I checked that off the list as a thing to strive for to make myself happy. Knew it wasn't that. You know, and I also grew up very close to the land. And I'm telling you all this because people might wonder why I make these videos, why I share the things that I do, why I share my perspective. Because first off, we should all share our perspective. All of us have a limited perspective. And the only hope we have at actually understanding the totality of reality is if we all bring our pieces of the puzzle together. Okay? So that's why I'm sharing how I gained this perspective, where I'm coming from, how I ended up here in this, being this person with these things to say. You know? Might help you decide whether or not you care to listen to what I have to say. So I grew up with very unhappy parents, one of which my father, he was an extreme alcoholic. My mother was an orphan. She was very shut down emotionally because she was abandoned by her mother and father. And I'm not going to tell their story because that's theirs to tell. But at the foundation, I had parents who were not present for me emotionally. They were very young parents. They were children themselves. You know, 19 and 20. But I was blessed. Even though I didn't have the emotional support of my parents and I didn't have the attention that I needed from my parents, I was blessed to be with the land. I grew up on 500 acres, and so nature was my mother. I talked to the trees. I had a tree. We had 5 or more bodies of water on our property. All stocked with fish and turtles and frogs and tadpoles, and there was a little ravine down the hill from my house, in a pond, and I would go sit next to that ravine on a slab of rock, and hanging over that slab of rock was an old mesquite tree, and I would sit under the mesquite on the slab, and I would talk to that tree. That's where I would go to tell all my problems to this tree. So, I always had a very close relationship with the earth. And I knew every inch of that land. I would wander it, you know, with my dog. On the weekends, I didn't have to be in school. I was outside all day long, walking around the land. And we had horses. And I would bareback horse ride. I would ride horses bareback. And I had a pony. And we had pigs. And cattle. So, growing up, I just always knew that I would eventually inherit that land. And I would be a steward of that land. I just knew that. There was no question in my mind. And then things didn't work out that way. You know, my parents got a divorce when I was 18, and they went their separate ways, and they had a verbal agreement, and my father ended up reneging on that, and he didn't pay the taxes on the land, and his family ended up getting the land and the house and everything that my mother was supposed to get, and that me and my siblings were supposed to get, and we were all left with nothing. And I'm not saying anybody should feel sorry for me. I'm just saying this is my background. Okay, I don't feel sorry for me. This is just part of what happened in my life. Was beyond my control. But this is all part of what has shaped me. And because of the way that I grew up, not having a strong support system, not having been taught that my boundaries matter or that my feelings matter, I went out to the world and I floundered because I didn't know what being an adult was. I didn't really have a good example of being an adult. And I didn't have good self-regulation of my emotions. I repeated my family dynamic over and over again with intimate relationships with friends. I was attracted to predatory type people because I was raised in an environment or I was surrounded by predatory people. I didn't have a protector because my father was an addict. So he was abusive and he allowed me to be abused by other people. And so that's what I was comfortable with. That's what I knew. That's what I was drawn to. And I was very leery of people who were kind. Because in my experience, anyone who had ever been kind to me, it ended up being a manipulative, fake sort of kindness just to draw me in so that they could take advantage of me. So I just had no way of knowing who was good and who was a user. But I was always drawn to situations that weren't healthy for me. And I'm not trying to play the victim here. Like, I had my own ways of engaging with people that were manipulative, right? Because that was the water I was swimming in. That's how I learned to relate to people, is a way that wasn't forthright and wasn't honest. And a lot of this was unconscious because it was just the fabric of who I was. But I always had a good heart, right? I just didn't have guidance. So, I had a lot of things that I had to overcome. I had to reparent myself. I have studied a lot of psychology. I've studied metaphysics. I've studied nature. I've studied religions. I'm a seeker of knowledge, and all of that is what has brought me to where I am now. And I ended up, as part of my journey and not having a support system, getting to a place where I finally faced all my demons. I had gained enough courage and enough ability to self-reflect and to really look at things instead of running from them or suppressing them. And when I got to that point, things started coming up and emerging, right? Because our psyche will protect us when we're young through dissociation or suppression of memories because it's too much for us to handle. I did a lot of that, but as I healed things, as I could handle them better, my psyche began to release them into my awareness, and those things were bubbling up. And, I had a situation a couple years ago where a lot of things came up all at once, and I went into this, madness, just this sort of, chaos, and it was very alchemical and spiritual, but all of this stuff was released, like shrapnel, or like some seething toxic bile that had been unleashed. It's like I popped a big boil or something, and just all came out. And I had to wrestle with that. I had to be in it. I had to be in the goo, and then, like a butterfly does in a cocoon, I melted down and I transformed and I turned into something else. It's alchemy. And this all sounds probably like, I don't know if I'm making much sense, but I'm just rolling with it. This is where I come from, okay? Part of my experience is that while I was going through all that, I didn't have the support system I needed. I knew what I needed, and I was very clear to people around me what I needed. I needed humans. I needed touch. I needed company. I needed hugs. I needed love. I needed warmth. I needed time and attention. Humanity. But what I found time and time again was I was surrounded by people who didn't have the time, and they would say, well, I don't have time, but I got money. I didn't need money. But the vast majority of people around me, if they had anything to give at all, it wasn't hugs, it wasn't love, it was, let me throw some money at you, I gotta go to work. Or, okay, now you're taking up too much of my time, I'm gonna throw you into the hospital and let the professionals deal with you because you got problems that I can't deal with. Well, the problems I had was that I had a deficit of community and a deficit of love and a deficit of being seen, and I needed to be held in that. That's what we all need. We all need that. We all need community. We all need humans. We all need love. I was very aware that I needed that, but I was surrounded by people that couldn't provide it for me. And this is not me tearing them down. The reason that is the case is because we've been born into a culture, into a society, which does not promote that. We have a toxic culture, which tears us apart, which breaks us down, which cuts us off from our humanity. And before I went through all of this, I too was not capable of holding space for I would not have been capable of holding space for a person in the way that I needed someone to hold space for me. I didn't have it because I was so wounded and I was just struggling to stay afloat and stay alive and I was in survival mode. A lot of people are. That's what's going on. We're kept in survival mode by the system. When you're in survival mode, you can't really think about anybody but yourself. You really can't. So now, having been what I've been through, having sat in the ugliness, wrestled with my shadow, wrestled with my demons, spent time alone in the woods with God and the devil, and laid down my life, having gone through all of that, and given my life to God for the sake of bringing people and the earth back together for the healing of the collective. That's what my mission in this life is. Okay, that's where I'm at right now as I sit in this car. That's my purpose in life. And I know that there are other people out in the world who have that same destiny. And I do believe that God is bringing those people together. He's going to help us find one another. So, if you can relate to any of this, if you feel like you have a similar destiny, high five, I'm here, you're not alone. We all have a destiny. We all have special gifts, and they are meant to be shared freely without fear. Right? Trust that if you share the gifts you have been given, you will be provided for. It doesn't have to be tit for tat. It doesn't have to be I give to you, you give directly back to me. We live in a circle, in a web. We're all connected. What you give will come back to you. Cause and effect, karma. Right? We have manna, love from God, from heaven, our Creator. It's never ending. It's always flowing, but you have to be open to it. You have to be trusting. You have to be allowing, and you got to let it flow. Let it in and let it go. That's how it stays open. When you hold on to it out of fear and you hoard, right, and you don't share, you limit yourself. You cut off the flow. So that's who I am, and I got this name Shalom given to me. You know, I sloughed off my old self. I was reborn into someone new, and that came with a new name. And the name was, I didn't pick this name. It was given to me. I started signing my artwork, Shalom. I'd never signed my artwork before in my life. I didn't even know what Shalom meant. I was just writing it. And then it came the day when I knew I needed to slough off my old name because I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't that version of myself anymore. The minute I knew I needed to let it go, I realized my name is Shalom. I knew it before I knew it. And then I had to look up what Shalom meant. I knew it was like a Jewish or Hebrew word, like a Jewish greeting. I didn't know what it meant, really. You know, it means hello, goodbye, peace be with you. It's perfect. Yes, that is the sentiment I want to carry. That is what I have become. That has become my mission. Let it in, let it go, for the sake of peace. Be present. And we are part of this earth. We are part of nature. We are part of God. We can't reject any of it and expect that we're going to live a healthy, happy, abundant life. That's insanity. That's why the world is going mad right now.